The second scripture is from the Gospel according to Mark, the first chapter. As soon as they left the synagogue, they entered the house of Simon and Andrew with James and John. Now Simon's mother-in-law was in bed with a fever. And they told him about her.
We had a crash.
Nothing broke.
We're going to be all right.
Real.
The table.
But it's real.
Thank you. There we go.
Okay.
Springing into action. it says.
Bringing into action. Where? All
Making
right.
y'all wait.
Carry on.
They're waiting. It's
You're
good.
waiting. They're waiting.
All right. Back to Mark. As soon as they left the synagogue, they entered the house of Simon and Andrew with James and John. Now Simon's mother-in-law was in bed with a fever, and they told him at once about her. He came and took her by the hand and lifted her up. Then the fever left her, and she began to serve them. That evening at sunset, they brought to him all who were sick and possessed with demons. And the whole city was gathered around the door, and he cured them, many of them who were sick with various diseases, and cast out many demons. And he would not permit the demons to speak, because they knew him. In the morning, while it was still very dark, he got up and went out to a deserted place, and there he prayed. And Simon and his companions hunted for him. When they found him, they said to him, "Everyone is searching for you." He answered, "Let us go on to the neighboring town, so that I may proclaim the message there also, for that is what I came to do." And he went throughout Galilee, proclaiming the message in their synagogues, and casting out demons. The word of the Lord. Alright, so if we took a survey before I read to you, those who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength, we might have found that some of you don't like waiting. I'll confess that I don't like waiting. You know, there are all these emergency advices about what you should have in your car in case you get caught in a storm or something. You're supposed to have a blanket and some extra food and water and that sort of thing. Well, my emergency kit is to carry a book or a magazine in my car in case I get stuck in a traffic jam. Because I can't wait passively without having something to do in those hours of sitting there watching the taillights in front of me. We struggle to wait. I go to the grocery store and I hear that nice music. Everybody seems happy. You'll see somebody lingering in the coffee aisle and they're sorting which of the 40 new flavors to try out, and they're happy. Or they're going through other sections, perusing, humming to the music. And the moment they turn their cart into the line, they get grumpy. Right? Because now they're stuck waiting. And even if the tabloid has something interesting, like perhaps one of the Kardashians is secretly married to Donald Trump, not even that is interesting enough to change the mood from being grumpy. We don't like to wait. It's inconvenient. Or it can be a lot more than inconvenient. Sometimes it can be excruciating. We've taken that test, and the doctors sent it off for a pathology report, and we wonder for a week or more. We wonder, we wait for that report to get back. Sometimes it can be miserable to wait. But then there are times when waiting can be liberating. There are times when it's actually a gift to wait. When we wait, we realize that we are not the primary actor in this world. When we wait, we realize that the sun comes up most days, and the stars and moon are visible most nights, and we weren't the one that made that happen. When we wait, we realize that this mix of sun and rain and nutrients is what ultimately provides that full cart we're stuck behind, grumbling in the grocery line. We recognize that that God made that possible for us. When we wait, we can pay attention to the fact that Jesus holds the keys to hell and to death and walks right alongside us, whatever it is that pathology report is going to show, whatever needs we have before us. He is there with us. Sometimes waiting reveals to us that there is a God, and we're not Him. Isaiah says that our strength will be renewed when we wait upon the Lord. It said that Pope John the 23rd prayed, "Lord, it's your church. I'm going to bed." I've prayed that before. It's a relief to release the church into God's hands. Lord, it's your church. I'm going to bed. Now that's just releasing you all. I think what the Pope must feel like, 1.2 billion Roman Catholics dependent upon his leadership. The whole world looking to him as the primary leader of the Christian church. There's a lot hanging on his shoulders for him to say, "Lord, it's your church. I'm going to bed." It must have been a tremendous, tremendous relief. Now let's not mistake that prayer for some sort of laziness or abdication of power. He had done everything he was able to do that day. He had done his best for God, done his best for the church. He had been able to, by the end of the day, wear himself out for the sake of God's church. But finally, he recognized in an act of faith, this is not my ultimate responsibility. This is yours, God. And in an act of faith, he turned over those things he had done, those things he had left undone, those things he had meant to do, those things he started to do but didn't get quite through, all of that back over to God, who ultimately was the one responsible for the church. In this Emerge series, I've tried to find this balance between our receiving in God's guidance, our receiving in God's blessings, and our doing as those who follow Jesus. A balance between our actively responding to God with our words, our actions, but then our willingness to step back and listen, to pause and find out what is God's heart. I want us to find that place in life, that sweet spot between thinking we are the ones responsible for it all, letting that go, but not letting so much go that we don't bear some responsibility. I guess if I were to give us a phrase to take home from this series, I would say we're to actively wait. To actively wait. We don't want our doctors to just wait, right? They do that test. And we don't want them to say, well, it may be a blockage or it may not be. We'll just let you live with it for a while and see what happens. We say that, no. Doc, do your best. Use your training. Use your intuition. Use all the things that God has given you to try to figure this thing out and help me get well. But even then, we recognize that at some level there's going to be some waiting. She's done all she can do. She's checked everything out. She has to at some point wait with you through this. Sometimes even the medical community has to wait. But as I said, waiting can be a gift. 8 years ago on Thanksgiving, well actually the Friday after Thanksgiving, I had eaten a sufficient supply of Thanksgiving leftovers, put on my bicycling kit, and was preparing to go out for a good day after Thanksgiving bicycle ride. I had ordered my whole day around it, focused my mind to it, was prepared to go when the phone rang and my brother-in-law announced that my sister was in labor. So, the whole house went into chaos. My younger sister, in her 20s, needed help getting dressed. Sally stepped in to provide the guidance. My parents went in all directions. I reluctantly took off my bicycling clothes and joined the caravan to Charlotte, where we went to wait. And wait. And wait. 9 hours we waited. finally, after some of the excitement wore off, we crossed the street and went to a store and spent some time there. And eventually we went over to a restaurant and enjoyed some time there. And then we got back to the waiting room to get the announcement that she's been born. You can meet your niece in another hour. So we waited. Many bike rides later, my niece, who I refer to as the interruption, has provided me with lots of joy, and I recognize that I wouldn't trade that day of waiting for another bicycle ride. Not only was she a gift that day, but also the waiting was a gift. We look back on that as one of our fond family memories, the time we spent wandering around, killing time in that store across the street, the time we spent at that Mexican restaurant, the time we spent in the waiting room watching people come and go. That's part of our family time, our memory together. Sometimes waiting is a gift. What you hear in the kitchen is a lesson that Deborah's giving the children of just that nature. She took them to the vending machine and talked about how you can instantly get this drink if you put in your money, and that's what we like. We think we should be able to press a button and get what we want, and she's helping them recognize that God is not a vending machine. We don't just get to say, now God, do it. So she's taking them in there and showing them how tea brews, and it takes a little longer, and something about Jell-O, how you can't just pour it in and eat it. It takes a while to congeal. The waiting is part of it. Sometimes when we're waiting, we don't just learn that there is a God and we're not Him. Sometimes the gift of waiting is recognizing that time with God is also the gift. That time we spend pleading, begging, hoping, wanting with God is a gift to us. It's time in prayer. I look at Jesus' life, the rhythm that it had. We read some of that in the scripture today. In the Gospel of Mark, the beginning, in the middle, and the end, there are these times when Jesus retreats to prayer, and you see in this rhythm of His life that He goes to worship, and then He heals. He goes off to pray, and then He teaches. He's got this rhythm of worship and doing outside the worship space. He's got this rhythm of praying and then serving back and forth. This rhythm involves both the rhythm of His life. In that last prayer instance that Mark's Gospel shares with us, Jesus is right between where He takes the Passover meal and redefines that this is my body given for you, this is my blood shed for you. Right after that, He goes into prayer before they come and arrest Him and take Him to His ultimate crucifixion. He's got this rhythm of worship and prayer before serving. Now that prayer He prays there in the garden is model prayer for us, profoundly faithful. Father, for you all things are possible. Remove this cup from me, yet not what I want, but what you want. Jesus' prayer reveals that He actively pursues what God wants and then is willing to wait to find out what it is and then do it. Even Jesus, who you would think would have a pretty close connection and know what He should do next, is shown to ask, wait, and respond. Even Jesus doesn't impulsively act whatever His best idea is. He asks God to show Him His will. This rhythm, prayer, and then doing. You're part of this rhythm. Don't underestimate the importance of you being here today, you being part of a corporate worship. This is part of how we sort out what it means to be